Hey, I'm Al Sailheim,
And I'm Maccabi Mohajer.
and welcome to the Doctor and Devil's Advocate. So, Hillary Clinton gave a conference about a month ago, and in it she famously said, quote, "The future is female." So as far as women in politics is concerned, let's take a look at a year in review.
Sure.
In South Korea, we had President Park Geun-hye, who was recently removed from office, correct? And then at a similar time frame, we had Dilma Rousseff of Brazil, who was also removed from office. Two very powerful women, heads of state, who, due to corruption, have been relieved of their command.
Okay.
In addition to that, we have Hillary Clinton, who won a majority of the votes, but couldn't quite make it to the electoral college level to be able to secure the presidency. We've had three women, essentially, taken from perceived power or actual power and put into a position of no power. Is the future female? What is the future for women in politics and women in power?
I think there is more female in the future. Is the future female has a connotation that there's no more male in the future, so it's all going to be female. I don't think that's going to be the case. But I do believe 100% unequivocally, beyond the shadow of that, the future is going to have a lot more females involved in it. And when I hear something, I'm saying, wow, these two women were impeached, but the half empty approaches, they were impeached. The half full approaches, magnificent. They were both presidents. They made it that far, which is amazing. Same thing as far as the woman perspective in this country is concerned. For the first time ever, a female running for president was the nominee for the major party, the Democratic Party. This has been the first time in history that occurred. So I believe that's a positive sign also. Now, is there going to be more females involved in politics in the future? Absolutely. And I think these blips are not going to be things that are going to dissuade people from basically, or women from getting in. The good thing is, just like when Barack Obama came into office, it gave a lot of African American boys and girls the hope, the belief that they can do it. They could accomplish such a thing. They could become the president of the United States. They don't have to aspire to be anything but that supposed highest office in the land. And I think that's the same thing when a woman, when a child, when a girl looks at it. Her dream is not going to be to, hey, let me marry well so I can have a good life. She can become something incredible herself.
So I want to go on that topic that you just mentioned, where maybe the ends justify the means. We've talked about this before. For example...
That's a slippery slope.
Yeah, for example, if it's so difficult, as you mentioned, for women to evolve socially and politically, and we've come to this point, as you say, now these are just blips, maybe the ends have justified the means for them to even become this blip in this particular case. For example, for the woman to be able to get to that point, maybe she needed to have been corrupt. Maybe she needed to have taken that money from Samsung to get to that point.
So the question,
maybe Hillary needed to have worked with the heads of state of different Middle Eastern countries like Qatar to be able to get certain kinds of money and capital, right, to be able to move forward. Maybe the same thing is true for the president of Brazil. To retain power, she needed to do the same kind of things. Maybe those were justifications for what we saw, and they were brought down by the same need that they needed to be able to get them to that position.
Then let's ask this very important question of you out there. Answer it yourself, and I'm going to ask you the same question. Does the end justify the means? And I said it's a slippery slope.
Mm-hmm.
Because does it?
Well, I think it depends on what those means are.
There you go. That's a very, very good answer. And the reason why it's a very good answer is because every issue needs to be looked at. There is no such thing, even though we like to think of everything as black and white. In reality, there is no black and white.
Right.
There are certain things that we believe that they're black and white, but they're only black and white in that specific moment we're talking about them. The earth is flat. It was black and white, and everybody believed till somebody proved that no, it's not flat. Mm-hmm. So now it's black and white that it is what? It is now round. It was black and white that we're alone in the solar system and this is it. And now they have found another solar system with planets that feel a lot like
Well,
earth,
let's go
right?
on that line. Is it important to have female presidents? Should we go out of our way to have them? Is it important?
I believe it's important to give the female individuals wanting to run for president the same opportunity. Is it important to have them? I don't think that by itself is now looking at something which creates negative and reverse prejudices. When you give a certain group, when you give certain group of people simply because they're this, you give them more of a opportunity. Hey, that's wonderful. Give opportunity and try to give opportunity equally. But I'm for equal opportunity. I'm against extra opportunity simply because of a certain hidden agenda or an agenda. So it's important to have the opportunity for a female to dream when she's 5 years old, 8 years old, 10 years old, 12 years old, 16 years old, that I can be the president of this country, or I can be the CEO of a major multi-conglomerate billion-dollar company. Okay, but is it imperative for us to now do special treatment for those people to get those opportunities? Well, in another grayish, non-black and white way, well, you have to give the opportunity for the people or give them the job to see how they can do. That becomes with a lot of slippery slopes. Yeah. We better learn how to ski.
That's a good point. Well, the fact of the matter is that you have to then justify those means. So
but there's the question I asked you. Right. Does the mean that?
So in this particular case, if a woman wants to get power, if the only way she can consolidate that power is to go outside those lines, to be able to offer certain promises and deals that may be even superseding what an average male candidate might do.
Yes.
Be able to then color those lines in order to further the agenda and create that opportunity and that hope balance.
Well, you're talking about that's a very important point. Is it balanced? I don't believe it's balanced. I don't believe there is balance. I believe a lot of people, especially in politics, think that if you're not cheating, you're not trying. Mm-hmm. The key is not the fact that did they cheat. The key is the fact that they got caught cheating.
Right.
So is there cheating going on? I think it's rampant throughout everything. Everyone is trying to do everything to get that edge. It's the fact that can you do it and not get caught?
Right. So there should be, in this kind of concept, no monogamy in politics.
Based on what we talked about before, yes. Is there such a thing as monogamy? I don't believe we should be married to those monogamous thoughts.
Right.
In this concept.
That's very good. So then we agree in this particular.
We agree
concept.
to agree.
Yeah. That there's an evolution in politics and there's an evolution to ideas.
And I'm even okay with giving certain individuals that did not have a chance.
Well, now it's a reversal. Now we're not talking about standing. We're saying you're going to go out of your way to essentially give kind of like an equal opportunity the same way we give to, for example, Hispanics and blacks.
Could it be
as far as
African Americans? Could it be?
Okay.
Could it be that because of the years of a lack of that, maybe there should be some sort of a head start?
I'm asking you.
I think so.
So now because you're a woman, you get more money up front, like the government gives you some money up front?
No, not because you're a woman, but I believe that because you're a woman and for years and years you were not given that opportunity, maybe you should be given that opportunity. And again,
everyone's given that opportunity. What are we giving them extra? Do we give them extra airtime? Do we give them extra money up front so that they don't become corrupt?
That's a very interesting point. But in order for you to want to, here's the key point here, my friend. If you want to even the playing field, does it mean that it has to be not even for the other side that has been subject to this lack of evenness for years and years and years? Now, me and you going on a tangent of hypothetical thoughts, which is amazing about when we speak of this. This is it exactly right here. Because a female has not had, or because a minority has not had the opportunity for years and years and years, should we give them a leg up to see how they will respond in that perspective? Now, does that mean you take that opportunity away from someone who, because here's the bottom line. Contrary to what many people think of, and we can maybe talk about this in a different episode, which is that you really want to come into this plane of existence and you kind of choose who you are and how you're coming into this plane of existence. Now, if that's a subconscious thought, the whole theory of subconscious is that I'm not consciously aware of it, so I can't address it or talk about it. I can talk about one thing, and that is that I had no choice in the genes that made me, who was my mom, who was my dad, and how I came into this plane of existence. You see what I'm saying? I had no choice. I was born in Tehran, Iran. I had no choice on that matter. Okay? And up to a certain point, I had no choice that my family moved and went there and went here and so
Which
on.
is what we're talking about. There's
Exactly.
no choice, and then in some cases, not all, but in some cases we have evidence.
So that means that if I had no choice and I happen to be a white man,
Right.
and I didn't create myself white, right? Because this is all about white and non-white. This is what the basis is, right? You have minority and no and Anglo-Saxon in this country per se is who is looked at as the people that have all the opportunity, right? So doesn't mean we take an opportunity away from that individual, okay, and give it to someone else, okay? And this happens all the time. The issue is, why don't we create another spot? Why don't we create another spot? And let's say this was a very interesting point that came into existence in 1992 in the All-Star basketball All-Star game. Magic Johnson had come up with had HIV positive, and that even though he had retired from the league, he was written into the All-Star game by fans that loved him and wanted to see him play. And everyone was talking about the fact that, well, this takes away a position from this other deserving player that is not going to be able to be on the All-Star team simply because what? Simply because of the fact that you're given this opportunity to Magic Johnson, who didn't play this most of this year. And they came up with this brand new solution. Instead of having 12 players for this team, for the All-Star game, you have 13 players. So that person, okay, who I think it was Tim Hardaway, also got that opportunity. Now I'm going on a tangent, but what I'm saying
big
is,
one.
but
I want to make some points
let's
too.
bring it all together.
Yeah.
Why can't we give an extra opportunity, but by giving the extra opportunity, not taking it away from the other side?
Yeah, I don't know what all that means, because anytime you say you're
Would
going
you
to
like
make a
me
change,
to
well, no, because
illustrate?
because once you start giving extra opportunities to people politically, it means taking away opportunities from everyone else.
I'm just saying
process.
we'll give those other people the same opportunities also.
Then it's not an extra opportunity. Then everyone has the equal opportunity again, and you just rebalance the playing field.
Interesting point. It's easy it's easy. It's interesting that you're saying this because in your political career, you have not really been looked at as a minority, and you've been giving those opportunities. The question is, if you were 100% a minority and were not given those opportunities, how would you view it at that point?
I'm not talking about myself. I'm just saying.
Well, I'm speaking about this general perspective, right?
Yeah, I think, and another thing I want to go on is now that we're looking at democracy and people voting, I want to see, first of all, should everybody be able to vote equally? I know that we've talked about histories of voting. I want to see, should there be qualifications? Should you, if you're stupid, be allowed to vote the same way as an intelligent person is voting? If you don't even know what bill is there or what it means or what those words mean, should you be allowed to vote yes or no? And should that stupid person who knows nothing about what they're voting on be given equal opportunity, and should their vote mean the same thing as someone else who knows everything about those topics?
I apologize on behalf of Al, who is calling you stupid right now. I don't think you are. I think you're very smart. And Al shouldn't disrespect you that way.
Valid
But
question. What's your opinion?
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
My opinion is that absolutely, everyone should be able to vote. Simply because you're giving too much power to the people to decide who's qualified to vote or not. And that's another layer of now control, big government, as opposed to just making it happen. And a lot of people feel they should get rid of the electoral college because the electoral college came into about because of the colonies, came into existence simply because of the fact that there was scenarios or certain states with not enough constituents, and it was farming, and there was a lot of allocations. It really came about not for the reasons that we look at it right now, and should it be abolished?
Okay.
Because here we are.
But wait, okay, I agree with
Right?
you. I agree
so,
with you.
So it's the same thing.
Yeah, but there's a unfortunate reality to the other side of this argument. For example, America is a bastion of democracy. Not only are we a bastion of democracy, we promote democracy. But in multiple cases, America has openly overthrown democracies on this earth historically. We've gone in, we've taken out democratically elected presidents or dictators. The people actually voted to have those dictators. Yes. But because those dictators happened to be supporting, for example, communism, we didn't like it. We didn't like the outcome of that election. So we removed democratically elected people from office. We've even had that happen in Iran.
Yes.
So effectively speaking, what happens when you give people the power and they elect the people that are, for example, not qualified to lead? When they elect, for example, people who are terrorists to be the head of their governments or states. What happens in that particular perspective? Do you then support that government because they are democratically elected, or do you overthrow them? Where is the right and where is the wrong?
I believe as long as those democratic governments, if they are truly democratic, even though they have chosen a dictator, if they can unchoose that dictator in 4 or 8 or whatever number of years, I believe you work with as much as possible. For me, the red line or the red card or the gray area or the area that you step in and do whatever you need to do to stop it is when you deal with infringing on human rights. That to me is like, okay, no, we got to go in and do this if there is human right violations.
So, but if the people are all human right violators ideologically, and they elect someone to be a massive human rights violator,
Absolutely,
what do you do then?
In my opinion, you remove them with prejudice.
Okay, so other governments should then get involved
Absolutely.
and disturb the democratic process.
Absolutely, because democratic process is useless, even in this country, even in the Constitution, is if people rise against, I mean, hold on a minute, this country came into existence because these individuals were sick and tired of this supposed democratic scenario, which is the United Kingdom, that ruled this land, so they overthrew that scenario,
but
right?
that comes at an expense. You have to then pay taxes so that we go in and fix somebody else's problem in another country.
Absolutely.
And you're okay with that.
You know what? I believe that you cannot live on an island. I believe, especially in this day
Unless
and
you're in
age.
Australia.
That's a fantastic point. Really not a good choice of a time of making a joke in a very serious but I'm happy that you're trying.
Right.
Good. Keep the day job, please. Now, here's the point. I believe 100% that because of how small the world has become, because how connected we are, you cannot say, okay, we live in an island, forget everybody else, we'll stay here, we have our guns, we have our ships, we have our airplanes, we have our bombs, no one's ever going to be able to invade the US, we're self-sufficient, F the rest of the world. We can't do that. So if we can't do that, and if we are the biggest kid on the block, if we are looked at by all those people that are being put down by tyranny, those people that are being crushed by cruelness, by lack of humanity, I believe the U.S. then at that point has to look at that and do something about it. But that's a fantastic point you bring because it is a slippery slope. Because it is exactly what you asked me and I answered. Yeah. Everyone in this country can vote.
Yeah.
So
like to
they could vote, huh?
I'd like to give an opinion on that.
Of course.
I think that everyone should have the right to vote. I think that the concept of the power of vote is something that is going to need to be expanded. I think that there should be technological processes that are also implemented where you can make voting easier and more accessible. Voting should not happen on one day. It should be any time during the electoral process that we actually vote. And you should be able to vote online. You should be able to get online, put your fingerprint or your eye scan, and be able to register a vote very easily.
Then Robin Williams would become the president. Remember that movie?
Right, yeah. The other issue, though, is I think that there should be safeguards. I think that certain kinds of bills that go up for legislation shouldn't be voted on just once. I think that the same way that we have runoffs for political candidates, we should have runoffs for political ideologies that can be devastating should they change for our economy or for our country. For example, Brexit was just a one-time vote and that's it. All of a sudden, you're leaving the European Union and it has these huge consequences that when the people looked at it, they said, oh, seriously? I didn't think my vote mattered, or what was Brexit? I didn't even understand it. Mm-hmm. Can I change my vote? So when it comes to circumstances where the unbelievable becomes believable, yes, puts it into action, I think those particular things, ipso facto, before the fact,
yes,
legislation should be created that there should be a runoff for really big ideas where then you vote again, narrowing it from, for example, 8 options to just 2 primary options.
In the general conversation, me and you on this topic agree to agree.
We agree to agree. Do you agree at this point then that I'm bringing up?
No.
Oh, okay.
In what I believe in, well, here's the point. I believe in what you're saying as far as safeguarding certain things, and how I mean by that is right now, and this is a very nouveau concept. Right now, if you are an American citizen, and on November 4th, for last November 4th, if you chose not to go and vote, what would happen to you?
Nothing.
Nothing. I believe something should happen to you. You see? So I believe...
Like a criminal punishment?
No, but I believe everyone should be forced almost to vote. Even if you go there and you say, I hate both candidates, and I put no vote, but you go, which means now you know everyone's in the process. I do believe in that. So when you say, should we choose who should vote or no, everyone should be able to vote, but they should vote. Even the stupid guy has to go in there and say, I want Barney Rubble. Okay, I want Fred Flintstone to be the president. That's fine. Go in and put it down, no problem, no issues. But if you don't show up, if you and like you said, create ways to do it online. If you don't do it, then there is some kind of a consequence. For example, if you don't pay a parking ticket, they take your driver's license.
Sure.
I mean, if you pay a moving violation. So there are consequences. So this, which is a lot more important, okay, than crossing a double yellow line,
Sure.
right?
It's a good idea.
Hold on. This is a lot more important than crossing a double yellow line or riding single in the carpool.
I like it.
You should 100% be responsible and liable if you don't.
Well, in psychology, we don't necessarily always have punishment. Sometimes we have positive reinforcement instead of negative reinforcement. So I could spin this and say I agree on a different point. We could say instead of punishing people, we could reward them. For example, the same way that they are rewarded, for example,
Tax
having
returns
insurance.
and-
Right.
yeah, sure.
You might be able to get some kind of a,
So my
stimulus
point
on
was
your
there
tax.
has to be a consequence, as positive or negative. We have not. I don't want to have a dissertation on what that could be right now at this specific point,
Sure.
because I just came up with this thought
Yeah.
when you were speaking. That yes, there has to be. You know what? Let me change the word. There has to be accountability. You have to be accountable for your privilege to live in this democracy, and you have to be a part of the system. Be a part of the process. However way you can make it easy for those individuals, whatever way that may be, that's basically, what it is. And we have to, and that's fine.
Yeah, I like that. I agree with that point.
So
I
we
think
agree
that
to agree
we
on
do,
that point.
yeah.
Fantastic.
We're doing that a lot lately. So that's
I don't know
very good.
what's Must be my health. Must be the no-face diet.
All right. So when it comes now to interactions of specific,
I'd like you to talk about this topic.
yeah. Okay. Well, I wanted to talk about the travel ban.
This topic is an empty topic.
All right. Thank you. The concept of that I find
We're
fascinating.
back to the travel ban
No,
again?
no. I don't want to talk
It's
about
covered
this
ad
specific-
nauseum everywhere else.
No,
We
I
want
don't
to talk
wanna
about
talk
stuff
about
that
this-
people don't get a chance
Can
to talk
I
about.
get to
No,
this? I'm not
go
talking
ahead.
about specifically the travel
Yes,
ban.
okay.
I'm talking about the concept whereby we are at this point announcing something ahead of time that's already been done, the same way that this topic has been talked about. But does it affect? Do you believe that effectively these kind of small changes, even if you were to make them, do you really believe that it's going to curb terrorism? What's your concept? What is the solution, and is this an effective solution for terrorism control?
No.
Why?
No way, no. And let me explain to you why. Let's for a moment talk about a scenario that happened in this country, okay, which is September 11th. Okay. After September 11th, there was a great deal of what you can take on a plane, what you cannot take on a plane, liquid, this, that, whatnot. There was the one guy who tried to do the shoe bombing in
Sure.
the plane. But if we're talking about September 11th, or when you go to the airport, the white zone is for loading and unloading, no parking, you can't wait there 2 seconds, they run you off. Hold on a minute. Nobody parked nothing to blow up on an airport. Nobody took, you know what I'm saying? Nobody took the liquids. September 11th, these were guys, supposedly, okay, because conspiracy theories think otherwise,
Go on, yeah.
that they went in there with box cutters and they took over the planes and they
Sure.
crashed the planes.
Yeah.
So here's the point.
And none of them came from any of these
No,
countries that
well, that's
are
none of these
America.
people. I mean, it's funny.
Yeah.
It's beyond funny. I mean, it's beyond funny how it's like you are, saying, I think we should really start blaming Switzerland for World War II. Switzerland had nothing to do with World War II. It was Germany, right? I mean, thinking about it from that perspective, that was the big enemy, right? That's exactly what this is. Picking on countries or that had nothing to do with September 11th or with killing Americans, if that's your point of view.
Right.
Come out and say, listen, these governments don't deal with us properly. They don't give us the information we want. They don't sell the rights of their citizens. They don't trample those rights by giving us all the information of these people because that's what the U.S. wants. And then again, that's a gray area again.
Yeah.
Should they, because there is terrorism and people are being killed, and so should there be safeguards? The answer is yes. Is this going to deter terrorism? I believe if a motivated terrorist cell wanted to do something negative in this country, there are many ways they could come into this country and do it, that it is not some guy with a regular visa trying to come through, from Heathrow to JFK to LAX.
Right.
So
again,
I believe it's completely something else. It's a smoke screen.
Yeah.
It's a lot to do about nothing. It's the whole concept of the magician. I'll have you stare at the left hand when I'm doing something with the right that you have no idea what that is. And I still don't know what that is.
I don't know either, because whatever you were doing with the right hand was very unnerving to me.
Really?
Yeah, but I would like to talk about the fact that whatever we pass as executive order or policy does have repercussions. Because just this week, literally yesterday, the European Union announced that they're going to enforce American citizens to get visas to come into Europe.
Yeah, well, it's it's tit for tat.
Yeah.
Each action has an equal or greater reaction. So you do this, something's going to do it against you.
Right. So if in fact we are not getting bang for our buck, and we're not stopping terrorism, but at the same time we're supporting this president to allow this, are we not in effect creating more isolationism for ourselves and removing the rights of our law-abiding citizens at no additional benefit?
Absolutely. And the first thing I saw when I went to Disneyland was, why are you laughing? The first thing I saw,
you're gonna make this relevant.
watch this. The first thing I saw when I went to Disneyland was the Abraham Lincoln ride. When you go in the theater and he gets up and he's talking, this thing, and he says the only way the United States will be ever overthrown is from inside. That no enemy from the outside can do anything. So I do agree with you. There's a lot of stuff happening inside this country that is threatening the democratic fiber of this country. And I think that's the key. That's what we need to look at. And I'm not saying this guy is good, that guy is bad. But let me just bring something to your attention. Let me bring something to your attention. Okay? All the people in this country don't possibly, maybe, don't realize what an unbelievable system you have. That even though you vehemently disagree with someone, he becomes president and nobody gets killed, nobody's money's taken, no one's bank account is frozen, per se, no one is executed, no one's family treasures are taken simply because they chose to back this candidate. Yeah. And this guy becomes president, obviously people are against it, and they're able to go on the street and they're able to demonstrate against it. And in 4 years, if they do what they're supposed to, per se, if they don't want it, in 4 years someone else will come, and many feel Oprah Winfrey, to come in and get this guy, and God help us, and come in and then get this guy out.
Right.
Right? So, if you've never lived in a third world country, my friend, if you've never lived in a place where if the candidate that you didn't disagree with came into office, very well they might have killed you, killed your family, took your money, put you in prison, didn't give you the right or the chance to speak, then you would view this scenario differently, regardless of who's the president.
Again, I agree. Now I agree with you. And that actually leads me into the next point. Just yesterday, Donald Trump released 3 tweets. In these tweets, he talks about one of the concepts that you talked about, which is repercussions of going against the status quo. He states that the former president of the United States tapped his towers, his phones, his emails, and was able to view and review all of his connections and all of his associates.
That is something that we will touch on next time. We'll talk about it. Sorry to interrupt you. We'll talk about it. So thank you for joining us again, and we'll see you next time where we talk about, did Obama tap Trump's phone?
Who tapped that line?
That's it.